Hi everyone, my name is Katie and today we're going to be talking about eligibility for special education. So first and foremost is the referral process. So what gets a kid into special education? Now currently I am a special education teacher. I teach in a Fed 3 self-contained classroom with autism kids. And which means I'm a part of the child study team. And typically part of the first process for special education is getting maybe a referral from an adult in the building about a specific student, whether that be a teacher, a special education teacher, maybe the school psychologist. And then you also potentially have maybe a parent that is concerned about maybe lack of academics or social skill issues. These are just things that are like, we are concerned about, we want to get them evaluated. So then you kind of have to request an evaluation, and then this child study team talks about it. And once that referral is made, then they have to provide, the school district has to provide a written document that gets sent to parents that basically gets permission from the parents to receive or for their child to get an evaluation to see if they are eligible for special education. Now, then we have to inform them within those 10 business days, to evaluate the child. And then after it's been approved, then you get 60 days to do an evaluation. And that, even when a child is in special education, you still get that 60 days, and it's 60 school days to be able to do that evaluation. And so let me see, describing the roles of general education teachers and special education teachers. So a lot of times it's general education teachers that are the ones who are kind of saying, hey, maybe this kid might need some special education services. So a lot of that is data collection. So maybe it's, this child is really struggling on these assessments, or maybe they're really struggling in math specifically, so having that data is also really important for us to determine that this child needs an evaluation. And then special education teachers, their job is not always, but and school psychologists, their job is to actually do the evaluation. Now, typically special education teachers just do evals on their own students. And then if a student is new, to special education, then usually it's a school psychologist or maybe a social worker, somebody who is licensed and is able to give that evaluation. And then if the child does need an IEP based on their evaluation, then after the evaluation is complete and the parents have been informed of that, then you get 30 not business days, but school days to write the IEP and then start special education services for that student. Now, and then I've used a couple of references for this as well. So another really important thing is understanding typical development, right? So if you're looking at a student and maybe you're noticing, hey, this student really has a hard time socially with their peers, unlike other kids that can maybe play together, the student is kind of isolating by themselves. Those are kind of warning signs that are kind of like, maybe this student, maybe he has autism, or maybe this student struggles with social skills and therefore needs to receive services for social skills. And then on the flip side, if a student is really, really struggling maybe with reading or math, that's something that would also be, maybe they're not at their grade level, maybe they're not even at a kindergarten level and they're in first grade. So you kind of got to be watching for that as well. And then on top of that, you've got something like daily living skills, right? Maybe the student is still not quite potty trained yet, or maybe the student really has a hard time using scissors, and so maybe they have some fine motor skills delays. There's lots of different things to be looking for, but knowing what is typical of kids in the grade level that you teach is very important. Because otherwise you won't know what to look for if there is a student that potentially has special education delays, or a need for special education services. And then in terms of formal and informal assessment, the formal assessment that I always think of is like the Woodcock-Johnson, right? That's kind of one that we use pretty frequently. And is something that is always in a evaluation. On top of that, you also have the WISC, which is the Wechsler Intelligence Scale for children. And this is mainly like testing cognitive skills. And then something that's informal as a way of assessment for students is curriculum-based measurement. So it's basically you're looking at a student, you're saying, hey, I want to see if you're improving or if you're not quite understanding this. Like, let's say you give them student a picture or a word that says cat on it, and then you try to have them match like an adult cat to a kitten. Can they do something like that? And it's kind of informal. It's like, can they match things? And then you might want to, and this is just for my own excuse my interruption, but then you might want to do a different academic area. Maybe this involves numbers, so kind of lean towards math. Are they at that same level across the way, or do they really struggle with math and maybe do really good with matching or with reading? Or are they really struggling with social skills, etc.? That kind of thing. And there are lots of different informal assessments that you can do. Something as simple as just like monitoring and collecting data based on like assessments that you give to all of the kids in the class, and see how that student compares to the other students that are at the grade level and are at the academic level they're supposed to be. So like I said, there's lots of different things to be able to do for informal assessments and formal assessments as well. I mean, the formal assessments, you have to be trained on those. You have to make sure you know how to give them properly, especially during an evaluation, because we want to make sure that those students are getting everything that they need, and we are collecting all of the information and the data that we need for those students. I hope that was enlightening. I went over by 2 minutes, but hopefully that was good.